In this video, I would like to go through the steps for making these squishy bath scrubbies. These scrubbies are very different from the ball-shaped poofs you might have seen before that are often too dense and awkward to use. Instead, these ones are shaped as a slightly domed disc. This means they fit well in your hand. You get more of the scrubby making contact with your skin, and they dry quicker than other crocheted scrubbies. There's also an indulgent squishiness to these scrubbies that makes you feel luxuriously pampered when you use them. Each scrubby is very quick to make, so it's a very good project if you are in need of a last-minute gift. Each one only uses about a half a ball of yarn, so the project will also help you use up any scraps you may have in your stash. For materials, I recommend an 8-ply or DK weight 100% cotton yarn. This is also one of the very few projects where variegated yarn actually works quite well. As you can see, a very variegated yarn here. But solid colors look great too. I should also say that I use a larger than usual hook size for these because a looser tension helps keep the scrubby from being too thick and dense. So for this yarn, I used a US size H or 5mm hook. There is a link in the description if you want to download the free written pattern from Ravelry. And if you are new to my breakaway crochet method, there are also links for introductory videos that explain the basic breakaway techniques you will need to know for this project. And to get started with this tutorial, keep in mind that there are two stages. The first one being to make what I call a gestalt motif. This motif provides the framework, or a sort of skeleton, if you like, for the scrubby. So this consists of some sort of mini wheels. There's a small motif in the middle surrounded by 12 motifs around the edge. And this is where you will need to use breakaway techniques to make this foundation for the scrubby. The general procedure is we will start in the middle, chain our way out and work one of these little mini wheels, chain our way back to the center, do another stitch, chain our way back out, come around, chain back in, and so on. So we will use that sort of pattern to go all the way around to make this base for the scrubby. So let's get started with actually crocheting the base for our scrubby. We start with a floating single crochet, which means yarn over, pinch, yarn over, pinch those two loops together, yarn over, pull through two. That's made a floating ring, and then to finish the floating single crochet, we go yarn around and pull through two loops. So that has established the very center of our motif. So we've just done one stitch of this little wheel here. And we'll come back and finish that piece by piece as we go around. So to continue, we do chain 3. And now we start one of the outer wheels, or mini wheels, which is an outer wheel, which is one of these little circles on the edge. So to do that, we start the very same way with a floating single crochet. And we need to have a total of 7 single crochets in this little wheel. So just do 6 more regular single crochets into the floating ring. So that's the equivalent of 7 single crochets in this little ring here. Now we do a slip stitch around, which means we find the chain 3 and slip stitch around it near the base of the wheel we've just made. So that just helps to close that little circle up for us. Now we've got to work our way back to the center ring. So we do chain 3, and then we find the center ring and do another single crochet into it. So there we've started off. Let's go out and do another outer wheel. So chain 3, and again start with a floating single crochet. This time just do 1 single crochet into the ring, because we need to pause now and connect our current wheel to the previous one, otherwise things will fall apart. So we need to connect that up with a slip stitch, and I'm going very close to that slip stitch there. So that stitch there is the point at which we will stick our hook in to make a slip stitch. And again, my way of doing it is then to shove everything to the left and make that slip stitch. And now we've connected those 2 up. Now since we need 7 single crochets in this ring, we've got 5 more to do. And again, we find the leading chain 3 and slip stitch around, chain 3, and we find our way back to the center and do another single crochet. So that's the basic gist of how to work this Gestalt motif. Just chaining 3, make an outer wheel, which connects to the one before it, slip stitch around, chain 3, and single crochet in the center ring. So I'll continue my way around. I'm going to make 11 outer wheels, and I'm going to pause there because there's something slightly different to do on the 12th one. So now that I have 11 outer wheels, the 12th one, which will be the last one in this motif, starts off the same way with 3 chain, floating single crochet, 1 single crochet into the floating ring, slip stitch into the previous one, but this time we also need to connect to this one here, otherwise we'll have an opening there that we don't want. So continue on with just your single crochets. We're just doing 4 this time. And now find not that one, but this second stitch here to slip stitch into, and I'm just doing it that way. That's all right for this purpose. It's not going to show, so if it looks a bit wonky, don't worry too much. All right, so we've slip stitched into that, the very first outer wheel. We've got 1 more single crochet in the current wheel, all right, and again we slip stitch around, It's going to feel a little bit different because things are closed off. Chain 3 and just follow that previous chain to find the central ring and the last single crochet into the central wheel. So that's as far as we're going to go with the base of the scrubby. The next stage is where we put the ruffles in, and that basically means we're going to follow the same sort of path we took to make this. So we're going to travel back up the chain 3, around the outer wheel, back down the chain 3, up the next 3, around and down. So that shouldn't be too hard to understand. So let's just begin and you'll see what I mean. So to start, we're going to do 4 chains, which count as a double crochet and 1 chain. Now let's make sure we are going up the correct chain 3, which is this very next one. What we're going to do is actually double crochet around that chain 3. And our pattern to do that will be double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. We're going to keep going until we have the equivalent of 6 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's seek out that first outer ring, and I don't think I did the chain there. So there are 7 stitches in this outer ring, and we're going to do a double crochet chain 1 twice into each stitch for a total of 14 double crochets. So let me start that off. Going into that first stitch there, double crochet chain 1 in the same stitch, double crochet, chain 1. Now as we move to the next stitch in the little wheel, notice that we've got a slip stitch already in that next stitch. That's all right. We're still going to double crochet into that stitch, and I like to take the hook and bring it out to the left of this slip stitch just to kind of keep the momentum going. Doesn't matter too much as long as you get double crochet chain into that second stitch. So I'll just continue along, and notice again at the second to last stitch there's a stitch that's already connected. And again, we still are going to do our little sequence into that stitch there. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and one more little stitch there at the end to do our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and now we're ready to find the chain 3 that goes back to the middle. And again, we follow that same sequence we did in the beginning pretty much, with double crochet, chain 1, 6 times. So since we're kind of cramming a lot of stitches into that small area, that's what gives us our ruffles. So we've done our first kind of ruffle, and again when we continue on, just need to pry it apart. Sometimes it's easier to find the next outer wheel that you haven't crocheted around yet and follow that chain 3. So that's the next chain 3 to do our double crochets in, and around and back down. So that's pretty much all you do. Follow that sequence all the way around. And as you go on, you know, things get a little bit mangled because we're packing a lot of stitches in. So again, if you get lost, in this case I've just gone around an outer wheel, I need to find the chain 3 and just kind of pry things apart and all will be revealed. So I'm just now on the home stretch. I've gone all the way around. I've gone around the last outer wheel, and as you can see, things get quite thick, so it can be a little bit hard to find your way, but once you just again pry things apart, and in this case I just need to find that very last chain 3 that leads back to the center to do my last little sequence here. 5 double crochets, and now the 6th, chain 1, and that's finished all our ruffles. So now to finish off, just find that beginning chain 4 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain, which I'm guessing is about there. This project is very forgiving, so if you're not going in exactly the right place, no one will know. It's our little secret. Okay, so there we have it. Ready to finish that off, but it didn't take very long at all to make. Here's what it looks like on the back. You can see how that Gestalt motif was the skeleton. Nice and squishy, all ready to use once the ends are sewn in. And keep in mind, these are very easy to kind of dress up for your gift giving, or if you've got a market stall, these look very attractive with a bar of handmade soap and just some paper raffia that I've just threaded through the back, tied in a bow, easy as. So I hope you give this project a try. Good luck. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I hope to see you again soon.